So let's solve. Let's solve a few more problems. Question number 23. The condition for maxima in the interference of two waves is given in terms of the wavelength lambda and m, an integer, by these are the four options. So you have to find out the condition for the maximum. So we know the phase difference is equal to 2 pi by lambda path difference. So phi, which is the phase difference, is equal to 2 pi by lambda times delta. Delta is the path difference. Now, delta equals to m lambda for constructive interference. That means we will get maximum. So therefore, phi equals to 2 pi by lambda times m lambda. That gives me 2 pi m. Okay. Now, the phase difference is this part of first wave function and this part of the second wave. So we take the difference k0 by 2 root 3 x plus y minus k0 by root 2 x plus y, which is equal to k0 taking x common. We have root 3 by 2, 1 by root 2, and then taking y common, plus 1 by 2 minus 1 by root 2. So if we keep doing this calculation, then finally we get k0 by 2 root 3 minus root 2x plus 1 minus root 2y. From condition 1, which is phi is equal to 2 pi m, we can write this value k0 by 2 root 3 minus root 2 x plus 1 minus root 2 y is equal to 2 pi m. Therefore, root 3 minus root 2 x plus 1 minus root 2 y is equal to 2 pi m times 2 by k naught, because k naught from the left hand side is taken over to the right hand side. Now, if we put k is equal to 2 pi by lambda, k is the wave number, then we get phase difference is equal to 2 m lambda. Therefore, our condition for the maxima is root 3 minus root 2 x plus 1 minus root 2 y is equal to 2 m lambda. So option A is correct. See, while doing this problem, you have to be very careful with this mathematics. So you see, in all the four options, you have only plus minus. Root 3 minus root 2, 1 minus root 2, then root 3 plus root 2, then 1 minus root 2, root 3 minus root. So only plus minus difference is there. So even slight mistake, you will give you the wrong answer. And since it is the maximum, that means constructive one, so the fourth one you can initially ignore. So you have to find out the right option from the options A, B, and C. So our option A is right. Now question 22. A system undergoes a thermodynamic transformation from state S1 to state S2 via two different paths, 1 and 2. The heat absorbed and work done along path 1 are 50 joule and 30 joule respectively. If the heat absorbed along path 2 is 30 joule, the work done along path 2 is 4 options are given. So we can draw the PV diagram. So state S1 and state S2, the system goes through path 1 and path 2. Now, few points to be noted. First law of thermodynamics says dq is equal to du plus dw, where dq is the heat supplied to the system, du is the internal energy, and dw is the work done. So therefore, du, internal energy, is equal to dq minus dw. Or you can write U is equal to Q minus W. So basically, the first law of thermodynamics is the statement of energy conservation. Thus, if a system is isolated, its internal energy must remain constant. Therefore, it does not matter which path the system takes to move from one equilibrium state to another equilibrium state. Your total energy remains constant or conserved. So our internal energy is conserved, which is Q minus W. That means heat supplied minus work done. Now, Q and W both depend on the thermodynamic path taken between two equilibrium states. So along path 1, W and Q are different. Along path 2, Q and W are also different. But since the internal energy or the energy is conserved, therefore our U is always conserved, whether the system goes through path 1 or path 2. So therefore, we can write Q1 minus W1 is equal to Q2 minus W2, because that is the internal energy. So putting the values, Q1 50 joule, W1 30 joule, Q2 30 joule, and we have to find W2. So doing the calculation, we get W2 is equal to 10J. So therefore, option B is correct. Next question, question number 21. The RMS velocity of molecules of oxygen gas is given by V at some temperature T. The molecules of another gas have the same RMS velocity at temperature T by 16. The second gas is 4 options: hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, and neon. So, what is the formula for calculating RMS velocity? V RMS is equal to under root 3 RT by M. That means Vrms is proportional to under root T, and Vrms is proportional to 1 by under root M. So Vrms oxygen is equal to V, which is given, is equal to 3 RT by mass of oxygen molecule under root. Mass of oxygen molecule is 32, we know it. And then the unknown gas is considered here as X2. So Vrms of X2 is also V, and the temperature is T by 16. So V is equal to under root 3 RT by 16 mass of unknown gas. Since both are equal, therefore Vrms is equal to Vrms of the unknown gas, and putting the values of Vrms of oxygen molecule or oxygen gas and Vrms of unknown gas molecule, and equating them, we get 32 is equal to 16 mx2. Therefore, mx2 is equal to 2. That means mass of unknown molecule is 2. Which one has mass 2? Hydrogen gas molecule. Therefore, the option A, which is hydrogen, is correct. Next problem, question number 9. Metallic lithium has BCC crystal structure. That means body-centered cubic crystal structure. Each unit cell is a cube of side A. The number of atoms per unit volume is, 4 options are given. Which one is the right one? So here is the BCC crystal structure. We have 8 corner atoms shown by green solid points, and the body centered one is shown by the red solid point. Now each corner atom is equally shared by 8 unit cells. You can see here, I have so this is the blue one is my BCC1, and I have considered one corner atom, that green dot. Now you see, this is my actual one. And this is one of the corner atoms. We have another corner atom here, here, backside, and we have one at the center of the body. So I have one cube next to this blue. Here I have one cube in front over here. I have one cube next to it. Then similarly, I have two cubes on the top, and therefore I have total 4 above and side. So that means that corner atom is shared equally by 8 unit cells. How many corner atoms I have? Total 8. So 8 into 1/8. This is coming from 8 corner atom. So this is the contribution of 8 corner atoms per unit cell. In the case of BCC, I have also one at the center of the body that contributes entirely to that unit cell. Therefore, plus 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. My volume is given V is equal to A cube, because each side is length A. So therefore, number of atoms per unit volume is 2/A cube. So I have mentioned a few points here. The point number 1, the contribution of a body-centered atom, which is my red dot, is full. That is 1. Number 2, an atom lying at the corner, that means the green dots, of a cubic unit cell is shared equally by 8 unit cells, and therefore counts 1/8 of an atom. Okay, so 8 corner atoms count 8 times 1/8, that is equal to 1. Therefore, number of atoms per unit volume. Here we are given per unit body centered cubic cell, which is A cube, is 1 plus 1 divided by volume V, that is equal to 2/A cube, because our volume is A cube. Therefore, option C is correct. 2/A cube. Now move to the next problem, question number 10. The moment of inertia of a solid sphere of radius r and mass capital M about the axis, which is at a distance of r by 2 from the center is, we are given 4 options. This tells us clearly that this problem is from parallel axis theorem for moment of inertia. So the moment of inertia of a solid sphere about the axis which is going through its center is given by 2 by 5 mr square, where m is the mass of the sphere and r is the radius of the sphere. So I is equal to mr square times 2 by 5. According to the parallel axis theorem, the moment of inertia about any other axis is given by moment of inertia about the axis passing through the origin plus mass of the sphere times square of the distance of that axis about which we are going to calculate the moment of inertia of that sphere. So here, if d is the distance between the principal axis, that means the moment of inertia about that axis which is passing through the origin, and the axis about which we have to calculate the moment of inertia of the sphere. So this is our axis about which we have to find out the moment of inertia. We know the moment of inertia about the axis which is passing through the origin of the sphere or center of the sphere. So if I1 is the moment of inertia about the axis which is at a distance r by 2 from the principal axis, then I dash equal to I plus md square. I is 2 by 5 mr square plus m d is r by 2 given. So therefore mr square by 4. So I1 is equal to, I can take mr square common, therefore in the bracket 2 by 5 plus 1 by 4, that gives me 13 by 20 times mr square. So option C is correct. Next problem, question number 19. At t equals to 0, n naught number of a radioactive nuclei A start decaying into B with a decay constant lambda A. So B is the daughter nuclei. The daughter nuclei B decay into another nuclei C with a decay constant lambda b. Then the number of nuclei b at a small time t to the leading order is, 4 options are given. Now see the question. What it says, the number of nuclei b at some time, at a small time t. What does it mean? Basically, the problem talks about law of successive disintegration. A goes to B through decay constant lambda A, and B goes to C through a decay constant lambda B, and we can have so on and so forth. 4 options are given. Option A says lambda A n naught t. That means it is relating basically A and B, and we are getting B from A. That tells me. Option B, lambda B n0 t. That means we are going from B to C. B is disintegrating or decaying, and we are getting C. Options B and C connect all the 3 nuclei A, B, C with decay constant lambda A and lambda B. So if I see or think that B and C could be one of the correct options, that means I have to consider entire process A to B, B to C. My technique of getting the right answer will become a huge one, because we have to relate A to B disintegration and then B to C disintegration. If I only want to connect A and B, because our question says number of nuclei B at a small time t. Therefore, we just need to pay attention that A is decaying into B. If I want to think that B is connected to C, that means B is decaying into C. Now the question is, which is our starting material? Nuclei A. So therefore, if I want to think that D could be the right answer, therefore I have to find out number of nuclei generated from the disintegration of nuclei A, then decay of nuclei B into nuclei C. So again I have to think from A to B and then from B to C. Again it is cumbersome. So which one is that if I use a small trick could be the right answer? A, because it connects only A and B, because A disintegrates into B. So I can apply this technical trick. Now let's solve it. N0 is nothing but the number of nuclei at t equals to 0 of nuclei A. N number of nuclei at time t equals to t. So I have made a table to understand it. How we are getting nuclei B from nuclei A. Suppose I have 10 nuclei at time t equals to 0. My n is 9 at time t equals to t. So how many nucleus or atoms or particles is disintegrated? 1. And that one particle becomes my B element. Okay. Now I got 9 nuclei. So 9 nuclei of element A. Again, it decays 1 particle. How many? We are left with 8. So that one becomes my element B. See, 1 plus 1. So I got 2 particles of element B. And you see, if I add 8 plus 2, because 2 is element B and 8 is element A, which is at time t equals to t. So total 10. We are started with 10. So it is 10. Then now my N0 is 8 for the case of element A. It decays 1 particle. So number of particles or nuclei at time t equals to t of element A is 7. So 1 particle is gone and it becomes element B. So 2 plus 1 gives me 3 nuclei or particles of element B. And again 7 plus 3 is 10. And this is, we can generalize and write N0 minus N is equal to NB. NB is the number of nuclei of element B. So N0 is the number of nuclei at time t equals to 0 of element A. N is the number of nuclei at time t equals to t of element A. So how many particles are gone? N0 minus N. And that many particles become particles of element B. So N0 minus N is equal to NB. Now, what is the relation between N and N0? We know N equals to N0 e to the power minus lambda AT, where lambda A is the decay constant of element A. So we have N0 minus N, N is equal to NB. Putting the value of N into the relation, I get N0 minus N0 times e to the power minus lambda at is equal to nb. Therefore, nb is equal to n0 taken outside of the bracket 1 minus e to the power minus lambda a t. What it says in the problem? At a small time t. So therefore, we can do the expansion of e to the power minus x, that is e to the power minus lambda a t, which is 1 minus lambda a t. That gives me nb is equal to n0 times 1 minus 1 plus lambda a t after this simple mathematics. Therefore, nb is equal to n0 lambda a t. So answer is option A. Option A is the correct answer. Okay. We can also do a lengthy calculation using the successive disintegration formula. That means number of nuclei decaying from A, B is receiving that many numbers of nuclei, then it is disintegrating, then rate of increase of nuclei of element B, and then do some mathematics. We can do a lengthy calculation and again use that approximation that t is small and we get the same result. But here on the exam, you see the problems are having either 1 mark or 2 marks or 3 marks. That means you have to use your concept to get the answer. And sometimes the intellectual guess as well as intellectual trick to get the answer. Next problem, question 4. An object of density rho is floating in a liquid with 75% of its volume submerged. The density of the liquid is. We are given 4 options. So this is basically Archimedes principle. What it says, objects submerged in fluid displaces an amount of fluid equal to the volume of the object. So let sigma is the density of my fluid, V is the volume of the given object. So therefore, according to the floating condition, our Bion force must be equal to the gravitational force acting on the object. So Fg, which is the gravitational force or weight of the object, is equal to the Fb, which is my Bion force. What is Fg? M times g. G is the acceleration due to gravity. The density of the given object is mass per unit volume. Therefore, mass is equal to rho v, because v is given and density rho is also given. So gravitational force is rho Vg. What is the Bion force? Density of the liquid, which we consider as sigma, How much volume is immersed inside the liquid? 75% of that volume. That means 75 V by 100 times G, that is my buoyant force. They are balancing each other. Therefore, sigma is equal to 100 by 75 times rho. Because G will cancel out. V and V from left hand side and right hand side will cancel out. Therefore, sigma is equal to 100 by 75 rho. That gives me 4 by 3 rho. So option A is correct. Now next problem. Problem number 8. Arrange following telescopes where D is the telescope diameter and lambda is the wavelength in order of decreasing resolving power. So you have to arrange it. So 4 telescopes, 1, 2, 3, 4 with different diameters and wavelength. What is the resolving power of a telescope? RP is equal to 1 by 1.22 times D by lambda. So I considered 1 by 1.22 as a fixed value or constant, which is C. So for the telescope 1, D is equal to 100 meter, lambda 21 centimeter. So RP is equal to C times D by lambda. D is 100 meter, lambda is 21 centimeter. I converted meter into centimeter. Centimeter cancels out. I got 10 to the power 4 by 21. And you see, I am writing the units because you are given meter, nanometer, and then at one case millimeter. Some third one is, I think, the millimeter one. Okay. So please make sure that you are using the proper units when you are solving this problem. Telescope 2, RP is C times D by lambda. D is 2 meter, lambda 500 nanometer. So I have converted nanometer into meter. So 1 nanometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 9 meter. So I got 0.4 times 10 to the power C times that constant C. That gives me C times 4 times 10 to the power 6. So I'm basically paying attention to this 10 to the power 6 or 7 or 5 or 4, that value. In the first case, it was 10 to the power 4. Second case, 10 to the power 6. So order or magnitude. Then telescope 3, my resolving power is C times D by lambda, which is C times 1 meter by 100 nanometer. That gives me C times 10 to the power 7. Option 4, the lambda is given millimeter. So resolving power is C times D by lambda converted meter into millimeter. Units are cancelled out. So C times 2 times 10 square. So 1 is having 10 square, 1 is having 10 to the power 7, 1 is having 10 to the power 6, and 1 is having 10 to the power 4, order of magnitude. So which one has the highest resolving power? Naturally 10 to the power 7 one, which is 3 telescope. Then number 2, 10 to the power 6, that corresponds to telescope 2. Then number 1, which is 10 to the power 4. And then number 4th telescope, which is 10 to the power 2. So the decreasing order 3, then 2, then 1, and then 4. So option D is correct. So out of the 4 options, the last option, option 4 is correct. So I'll stop here and discuss a few more tomorrow.